No, it's not. That's Re:Zero, which I'm also probably going to do a video about. But hey, this was still pretty good. Back in 2018, a certain show called Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai aired, and in the weirdest turn of events, it turned out to be phenomenal despite its bumblefuck name. Rent-A-Girlfriend presented a possible similar circumstance, and so I decided to give it a try. What appears to be a regular harem slice-of-life series has surprised me in some ways and disappointed me in others, so let's take a look at Reiji Miyajima's Rent-A-Girlfriend. Rent-A-Girlfriend, or Kanojo Okarishimasu for the Nihongo Enlightened, follows college student Kazuya Kinoshita navigating the tumultuous difficulties of a breakup. After getting slam dunked by his first girlfriend, he tries to quell the pain of heartbreak by 1. Jacking off, and 2. Partaking in a newfangled service that allows one to pay money for someone to go on a date with them, and, in essence, be their girlfriend. Taking the plunge and probably half his rent, he selects top rookie Chizuru Mizuhara to be his partner for the day, and sets off on a lovely day consisting of dining, small talk, aquariums, and a turn of events which makes it so that the two of them have to pretend to be a permanent couple. See, both of these youngins care a bunch about their grandmas, and when in the middle of a date, Kazuya's Oba-san gets into an accident and has to go to the hospital, Chizuru accidentally gets introduced as his girlfriend. Conveniently, her grandma, who is equally infatuated with the idea of the two of them getting together, happens to be staying in the same hospital, which implicates both of them in having to keep up this ruse. The rest of the season follows the events of Kazuya trying to navigate the ups and downs of heartbreak and new love, and Chizuru's own growth and examination of her wants and genuineness of her feelings. So, is Rent-A-Girlfriend good? Yes. Right until here. The instant Ruka shows up in the show, it immediately drops a point. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that opinion, but let me explain. Now, were I to be in a situation where I had to choose between the 4 girls in this show, personally, it would look something like... But that is a matter of personal preference and exists in a vacuum. When it comes to her impact on the show, I haven't enjoyed any amount of her presence up until the last episode. The thing that most endeared me to Rent-A-Girlfriend initially was that it appeared to be defying a lot of the things that I come to expect from a romance slice-of-life anime. While it's certainly possible to classify Chizuru and Mami into certain archetypes, they frequently functioned outside of defined tropes, and it made them feel more holistic and like genuine characters. Sure, you've got things like a beach episode and pretty explicit fan service, but even within that episode you still have really important character moments, not just for the main characters, but from side characters as well. Ruka's introduction completely turns this around, and she sticks out like a sore thumb because of it. While there's certainly a possibility for more information about her down the line, even with the current explanation, there's little believability to her immense and frankly unearned attraction to Kazuya. She behaves like a typical OMG MC-kun, I love you so much, you're so amazing and epic and cool and I love— Christ dude, I feel like I'm watching SAO again with just how she's clings to and so vigorously pursues the main character. Like, it's just annoying. Not only that, but she throws a wedge into things with Kazuya's relationships. She almost ruins his and Chizuru's relationship in front of his grandma, and to make up for her manic behavior, he has to make up a thing about her being a compulsive liar. Also, she does this weird thing, like just randomly grabbing Chizuru's boob. What are you doing? This change in pace and general believability pulled me out of the show a lot, and it made for a less enjoyable experience. Personally, I would have much rather had it be between Chizuru and Mami, preferably with Kazuya moving on for the latter because, let's be honest, she seems abusive as hell. Sumi is in some ways similar to Ruka, but she doesn't annoy me nearly as much. At the very least, she's had less screen time and her personality isn't as conflicting with the tone of the story. Like Ruka, however, she is for the time being a very cardboard cutout character, essentially just moe bait. This is where most of my negatives end, however. While no bunny girl senpai, I was definitely pleasantly surprised by the moments of quality in Rent-A-Girlfriend, and it's what kept me invested in watching every week. Underneath the surface of a regular harem show, it has a genuinely interesting main character trying to figure out his emotions as someone fresh to romantic relationships. It's understandable and in some ways endearing to relate to that infatuation you can have for your first partner, and the hopefulness that can come out of it. It's new and exciting, you've always got that warm feeling in your chest, and though immature, you sometimes think about it lasting forever. Almost always, though, it eventually ends, and in Kazuya's case, it's rather abrupt and with little explanation. What follows is another relatable emotional state, where even though you've broken up with someone, you're still plagued by thoughts of what they're feeling. Are they over me yet? Have they found someone else? Did our relationship even matter to them in the first place? I appreciate that the show takes some time to well establish this headspace before the major events begin to happen. It creates a stronger connection to the main character, especially if you yourself have experienced similar emotions to what he's feeling. Thus, it becomes extra pitiable and somewhat cringy to see him cave and decide to go out with a rental girlfriend. Before we move on, I'd like to talk about the composition of the series, another thing which surprised me about the show. There's quite a bit of good music to be found, and it maintains a unique sound and art style. There are remixes of previously made songs in addition to original scores that are all enjoyable. I particularly like the one that plays at the end of episode 3, which also showcases an example of the strong directing it occasionally pulls out. These moments of striking cinematography are part of what kept me coming back to the show, partially just for the raw goodness and partially for the surprise that it would express such a level of artistic quality. The scene-to-scene art is clean, especially with the characters. I quite like the eye designs for everyone, and while not quite a Studio Wit level feat, they're still very well rendered. The backgrounds will often have a more cartoonish and colored pencil-esque style to them, which gives the series a stronger sense of visual identity as well. Moving back towards discussing the characters, let's track Kazuya's journey throughout the season. He begins the story emotionally destitute and searching for something to fill the void that Mommy left in him. Attempting to quell his sadness, he enlists Chizuru to help, which starts off as very surface level and evolves into a hassle as they both attempt to keep their relationship under wraps. Over the course of their relationship, though, the two begin to develop stronger feelings for one another. Kazuya in a romantic sense, and Chizuru in a mostly platonic one. I think the beach episodes are especially effective in this because of the extremity of the events that take place in addition to the important dialogue between the characters. The talk from Kazuya's friend gives a lot of insight into Kazuya's character and how his friends view him, in addition to helping Chizuru notice some of his more good-making qualities. This complimentary speech is then backed up by Kazuya's actions on the boat. I think it's especially well done that not only does he go to such great lengths as to jump in and to save Chizuru, but in the process abandons a conversation with Mommy. This is an early and powerful representation of his moving on from one to the other and realizing the unhealthiness of his prior relationship. Speaking of which, I really do like Mommy. As a person, I think that she's absolutely awful, but as a character, she's one of the most effective parts of the series. She's cold, manipulative, and selfish, and borderline sociopathic. Seeing her attempt to toy with Kazuya's emotions and she herself navigate her own feelings towards this newfound relationship added an extra layer of depth that made her interactions with the rest of the cast much more impactful. Her eventual incessant investigation into the circumstances of Kazuya's relationship only added to this and made for a nail-biting final episode that thankfully Ruka was sparingly a part of. Chizuru is an equally intriguing character, closed off to sharing too much about herself, but not particularly prickly about doing so. In this way, she comes off less tsundere and more just reserved and private about herself, and this contributes to the aforementioned quality of breaking stereotypical character dynamics. Learning more about her as the season went on was one of the best parts of the experience. She's taken up the rental girlfriend job in order to gain experience for a future career as an actress, and is testing her abilities by practicing in this profession. This both adds an extra dimension to her character and creates a looming deadline for the relationship, as they both know it's inevitable that they're going to have to eventually stop dating. What almost every character feeds into, however, is a specific theme that is perhaps my favorite part of Rent a Girlfriend: determining the genuineness of your emotions. Every major player is thrust into a position of confusing emotional states, having to process a myriad of feelings among multiple unorthodox situations. While certainly in not the most realistic of scenarios, the cast and theme is grounded in the relatability of the issue. Everyone has been through an emotionally tumultuous time in their lives, and it can be really difficult to determine what exactly you're feeling and what decisions you want to make. Both Kazuya and Chizuru start to walk the line of platonic, business-like relationship and a genuine romantic one. Kazuya questions whether he has legitimate feelings for Chizuru or is simply gravitating towards her for the sake of assuaging his bleeding heart. Chizuru views it as a purely business-like relationship, but as they begin to both engage in more and more romantic activities and have more genuine, spontaneous ones, she begins to question her own possible romantic feelings. This also creates a neat point of highlighting that often the most meaningful and impactful moments in developing a relationship with someone don't necessarily come from the most overtly romantic of situations. In fact, the least important emotional scenes for the characters are ones that are romantic, because they are all a facade. Rather, so much of the development for the two are just from simple conversations on the balcony of their apartment, where they're alone and can be real and genuine, contrasted against the public displays of false romantic affection. Mommy plays into this idea of emotional unsureness, as she is initially in a position of indifference towards Kazuya, but finds jealousy to slowly creep in after he begins a new relationship. This makes her very intriguing, as the audience wonders to what extent she actually feels emotions as we see her jealousy towards her ex-boyfriend contrasted against her sociopathic behavior. Rent a Girlfriend definitely has its flaws. It can become bogged down in tired tropes and cliches, but nonetheless has many positive qualities. Its unique presentation, interesting plotline, and intriguing characters that almost all play off of each other in some way create an entertaining and analytically enjoyable experience. I give Rent a Girlfriend a 7 out of 10.